Members and sponsors, you might notice that this meeting is a little different from our normal meetings. With the advent and upsurge of COVID-19, we are proceeding using Zoom to present our meetings online. We, as you, would prefer to meet in person, but adhering to the law and our concerns over your health takes a priority. We will start our meeting as we do with all of our live meetings with pledges to the U.S. flags and Texas flags. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. I'd like to make a few comments prior to Joan introducing our speakers today. Our plan for the rest of the year is to have live monthly meetings as soon as possible. With this in mind, I implore you to stay tuned to your emails and visit our website to stay abreast of the latest developments. As we battle the virus and the need to address social injustices, we must remember that backing our conservative candidates is a priority. The liberals have been waiting for an opportunity to crack conservative Texas. In order to prevent this from happening, we need to get out the vote. We also need to cooperate with the county GOP and their efforts to ensure that all the candidates in Collin County retain their offices. As we have in the past, your board has been working on a plan to ensure that you all have the opportunity to meet some of the candidates in person. Your legislative and membership teams will be contacting you individually shortly to garner your participation. Please cooperate if you can and give them the opportunity to present our solutions to you for your cooperation. This is a very large undertaking and has taken a lot of planning to move this effort forward, with the pandemic causing us to consistently refine the plan. An example of the Liberals' game plan is that they have booked more than double the amount of ad time than the Republicans. They need only 3 seats to gain control of the Senate if Biden wins, and 4 if President Trump wins. A large number of political analysts predict that Texas and a number of other key states are in play. Let us prove them wrong. We will be circulating a number of President Trump's accomplishments to you to be able to share with your friends and family. If you need to register to vote or need to apply for a mail-in ballot, which you must request annually, let us know and we will be very happy to attempt to accommodate you. With all of this in mind, I would like to have Joan introduce our guest speakers for this evening. Joan?
Oh, once again, we're bringing the Republican program into your living room. Our programs have been focused on the coming election, not only our candidates, but some of the issues. And today, we have a 3-part program for you. 2 parts have to do with 2 candidates who will be running in the election in November, and 1 part will concern an issue which will factor prominently into the election. Our first speaker today will be Candy Noble, and Candy Noble is well known in Heritage Ranch. She is a member of our Republican Club at Heritage Ranch and has been coming to our meetings for a very long time. She was elected in the election which brought her into office in 2018 after the retirement of Jody Laubenberg. Candy Noble has had a very successful first term in the state legislature. She lives she is a neighbor actually. She lives in Lucas and has been married to her husband, Robert, for 36 years. But I do want to tell you a little bit about the legislature. 2 very prominent parts of the legislature, the bills that she had something to do with. One of them was the funding of, or I should say, denied the funding of monies for abortion providers and their affiliates. It was Senate Bill 22, a bill that protects the taxpayers from funding abortion providers and their affiliates. It was passed and signed into law by Governor Abbott. She was also very helpful and prominent in a House Conference Committee, of which she was a member, for Senate Bill 2. And that bill reforms property tax, reforms the Texas property tax system and makes it more transparent. Candy Noble is a mom. She has 3 daughters, she and her husband, and 3 grandsons. And they have 8 grandchildren. She will be talking to you about her candidacy and about herself. And we need to make sure that she gets elected and goes back to the legislature in the coming year. Welcome, Candy Noble.
Ranch Republicans, I miss y'all. I can't wait to get back live and in person with my favorite Republican club. No, don't tell the other clubs that. For those that don't know me, I am Candy Noble, and I have the honor of serving you in the Texas House of Representatives. Before I was elected to the Texas House 2 years ago, I served 4 terms on your behalf on the State Republican Executive Committee. 8 years ago, I had the privilege of being a delegate to the National Convention. I had the honor of chairing the Texas Electoral College 4 years ago and experienced one of the greatest moments of my life when I was the one who announced to the world that Texas put Donald Trump over the top and that he would be our next president. I'm telling you all this because our sweet Joan has given me the task of telling you about the convention process, what's happened, what's going to happen, and then a bit about the election. I'm not sure how many of you have been delegates to the state or national convention before, but past experience has not been terribly useful on convention plans this year. Even though we have a state Republican convention every 2 years, the Texas GOP spends up to 4 years planning a convention in its host city. So much work goes into a convention planning, your hotel blocks, your meals, your special events, and space for all of the Senate district caucuses and the congressional caucus meetings. National conventions take place every 4 years, and the location of the next convention is already decided before the last convention has even taken place. It's a complicated process at the national level. Hotels for each of the state's delegations, transportation to and from those hotels to the events, and on top of all on top of the things that I mentioned at the state level. And then at the national level, of course, you have to have the added security to keep both the press, the convention delegates, and even the protesters from harm. As you've probably heard, just a week prior to the beginning of our Texas Republican Convention this year, the mayor of Houston, in spite of our party making every precaution to prevent the spread of COVID, and those precautions had been approved by the city and the convention hall, he said that we could not hold our convention there. The resulting lawsuits and appeals whittled down the days to the convention to hours that we had available to prepare. Our party was frankly not prepared to go to an online convention. We had put all of our convention eggs in that Houston basket, and that basket fell. Thousands of Texans did participate in the convention online, but the delay in business of the convention was pushed back from the date that it was supposed to happen, which was Thursday. It didn't start until Saturday. It was supposed to have ended on Saturday, but instead, we finished just afternoon on Monday. We actually did get the most pressing job done, and that was electing our delegates to the national convention and our presidential electors that will serve us in the Texas Electoral College. In the wee hours Sunday night into early Monday morning, we also elected our newest state Republican Executive Committee members and our new state chairman, Colonel Allen West, and a new vice chairwoman. We also finished our party's legislative priorities for the next legislative session. What we didn't get done was our party's permanent rules and our platform. As the hours ticked on, a motion was made to postpone those two items to a second convention date and time, not yet decided, that will have to be planned now by our newly elected chairman. Frankly, my description of the convention probably sounds better than it was in person. Many delegates and alternates were never issued their credentials so that they could get through online, and they didn't get to vote. Now, as we look toward our national convention, at least we had a little more warning that the governor of North Carolina's executive order prohibited our convention celebrations in Charlotte, where the convention is slated to be held. The Republican National Committee modified our rules to align with the state's current restrictions in place so that fewer delegates and staff are required to gather in Charlotte. So the official business, because of our party rules, must take place in Charlotte. These include the formal nomination of President Donald Trump and also our vital party business of making sure that the credentials are met there. The rest of the events and frankly, most of the business will happen in Jacksonville, Florida. Fortunately, they're close enough for some people to drive back and forth. The presidential's acceptance speeches and speeches by other individuals and candidates and other convention-related activities will take place in Jacksonville, Florida. What will happen in Charlotte will be on August 21st through 24th, and what will happen in Florida is the 24th through the 27th. One thing I wanted to mention as we move on from party business is that it was reported to us, Texas House members last week, that Texas has far underreported on the census. We are in danger of not only not gaining representation in Washington that we deserved based on our ever-growing population, but instead we may actually lose 2 of our U.S. House seats from Texas. So please help me get the word out. If you have not yet responded to the census, do it today. Once the census is complete, the Texas legislature will be tasked with redistricting. This task alone should fire us all up to make sure that every single one of our Republican House members get reelected. We not only get us reelected, but make sure that we take some of those seats from Democrats as well. Also in the news just this week, we learned that Comptroller Glenn Hager reported that Texas is looking at a shortfall of $4.58 billion in our revised Texas revenue estimate. Of course, we all know we experienced a perfect storm of falling oil and gas prices and a falling demand for the oil and gas themselves with the coronavirus shutdown of our economy. It's more important than ever that every single dollar that we spend as a state is absolutely necessary. And it's more important than ever that we have representation in Washington that will curtail federal spending too, so that we don't pass increasing amounts of federal debt down to our grandchildren to pay off. Democrats have frankly given us a gift with the person they put at the top of their ticket. He doesn't inspire great enthusiasm. We can capitalize on this by making sure that every Republican shows up to vote and votes all the way down the ballot. Remember, this time there will be no straight ticket ballots in Texas. We will have to vote one election spot at a time. So remind every Republican to vote the entire ballot. Finally, some of you have asked how you can help our candidates. If you are on social media, please like and follow our candidate pages. Share the post if you think they're interesting. Forward our emails to friends in the districts and encourage them to get to know our candidates. A lot of people, when they go to vote, play eeny, meeny, miny, mo with the names on the ballot. It helps so much if there is name recognition there. That person sounds familiar. Helps us achieve the goal of winning. Another thing you can do is volunteer to send dear friend letter or postcard. We will supply you with a list of folks to send it to. We will provide the postage and the printing. Another thing you can do is serve as an election worker or an election judge. Call Collin County GOP headquarters if you're willing to help out during early voting or an election day in November. We need competent people to staff our polls so that our election integrity will be in place. You could give to our campaigns. We know that Democrats have already bought millions of dollars of media time in our area alone. Please help if you are able to. We have a battle on our hands like never before. And as my grandmother used to say, many hands make light work. Could you join us in helping to make sure that that work is light? Together we're stronger. Together we're wiser. Together we can win.
Our next speaker is our Congressman from Congressional District 3, and he is our Congressman in Washington, and that is Congressman Van Taylor. Van Taylor is also not a stranger to Heritage Ranch. He has been to our meetings, he has communicated with us, and he has been very active in Republican politics for a long time, holding different positions, political positions before being elected to Congress. He is going to give you a brief but succinct review of his background. So I'm not going to tell you too much about that, but I do want to stress something. He does have his responsibilities in Washington. However, he keeps his hand on the pulse of Collin County. During this recent pandemic, or this current pandemic, he has been hosting or co-hosting with Representative Jeff Leach and Matt Shaheen, both of them and others. In Collin County, he's been hosting town meetings. He has been communicating very carefully and closely with his constituents. Many of the town meetings have been on the financial situation, which so many people have been suffering from as a result of the pandemic. And the last meeting that I can remember, town hall meeting that he hosted, had to do with COVID-19 and nursing homes and the Alzheimer's Association, which he did in conjunction with the Alzheimer's Association. So he reaches out continuously to his constituents in Collin County. He currently lives in, or has his office, his local office in Plano. He will be talking to you now. Welcome, a hearty welcome to you, Congressman Taylor.
Hi, everybody. I'm Van Taylor. I am the U.S. Congressman for the 3rd District of Texas, which is, if you're in Fairview, I am your U.S. Congressman. I have the tremendous privilege of representing 750,000 Texans who all live in Collin County. And if you live in Plano, Frisco, Allen, McKinney, the parts of Richardson and Dallas that are in Collin County, I am your U.S. Congressman. Reaching out to you, I'm in Plano, Texas this evening, and I just want to say thank all of you for what you do. Just a really quick bio, because some of you actually may not have had the opportunity to meet me, or I have been fortunate enough to meet you. I'm a 7th generation Texan. I was born far away in Dallas, and I took a commission in the U.S. Marine Corps to serve my country in the Marines after college. Was a reconnaissance commander, and I was an intelligence officer for an artillery battalion. And after I finished my tour back to duty, I went to Harvard Business School and joined the Marine Corps Reserves. I continued to serve my country while I got my MBA. My last day of drill, my Marine Reserve unit, which was in Washington, I was planning to go to the Pentagon and grab lunch, but I never got there because that day was September 11th, 2001. I watched the Pentagon burn with my own eyes, and I made an oath to myself to continue to serve my country and to make a difference. I drove to Dallas that day, and a few days later, I was at 4th Recon Battalion, and 18 months later, I was leading the very first platoon into Iraq on D-Day, March 21st, 2003. We accomplished every mission, and with God's blessing, we brought every single man home to their families, and I came home to the girl that sent me a letter every single day that I was there. And Ann and I are married and raising 3 little girls. Was active in business, in Republican politics, was a precinct chairman, was an election judge on the Collin County Republican Executive Committee. When in 2009, when our state representative announced he was not running for re-election, people started calling and asking me to run for state representative, which I did, and was fortunate enough to be able to serve in the Texas House for 4 years. And afterwards, I served in the Texas Senate for 4 years. And in 2018, I was elected to the United States Congress. And that was possible because of you, and people like you. You have helped people like me, Van Taylor, to be elected into office, and I'm grateful to you for it. And I'm grateful to you for having built a community that is as successful as the community that we happen to enjoy here in Collin County. It is an affluent, diverse, harmonious community. I'm proud to have the largest Baptist church in North Texas. I'm proud to have the largest mosque and the largest Jewish temple in North Texas, all right here in Collin County. And that diversity, I believe, is our strength. And we've built a great system, a great group of people over many generations have built a great government here in Collin County, and it's something to be very proud of. Plano, Texas is actually the highest per capita income city in North America with over 250,000 people. Collin County enjoys the lowest property taxes of any of the 254 counties in Texas. Some of the school districts here are some of the very best school districts in the state, and we have some of the safest streets in America. And I think that's a result, again, of people like you working hard to get people in office like me who work on your behalf to keep taxes low and to manage things well. And I think you've seen the quality of that management. You've seen the position that we are in Collin County as you see it. You've seen it in the courthouse. I'll brag on the courthouse for a second. We have one of the most electronic courthouses in the country. The first Zoom jury trial in Texas history took place in McKinney, Texas. And that took place because you had a commissioner's court, because you had a sheriff's office, because you had judges, because you had clerks that you helped to elect, to put there. They're willing to invest and innovate and come up with the next generation of justice. And our courthouse has done a great job. And it's because of people like you working hard to get Republicans elected, who then in turn have administered justice really at the very highest level that we've seen in our state, and maybe even in our whole country. The Collin County Courthouse has won many awards for being a great electronic provider of justice. And so we're very proud of that. And also, I'm going to point out, it takes legislators. I remember my time in the Texas legislature, I carried several bills to help encourage electronization of our courthouse and of our justice system. But right now, that progress that we have worked so hard to build. Actually, I'll just give you one other thing that I'm very proud of, and that is the Collin County's ability to take the CARES Act dollars and distribute it down to food banks, down to cities, down to citizens who need help during this incredibly difficult time with COVID-19. That ability to take those dollars and distribute it down to people who really needed it, that ability is a direct result of Republicans being in charge in Collin County. Our Collin County government had money in the bank. Our cities had money in the bank. And because of that good management, they were able to help citizens and help food banks. I was talking to a food bank leader just a few days ago, and she was surprised when I said, look, in the state of New York, the state has said, we're not giving any CARES dollars to anybody. We're keeping it all for ourselves because they just don't have any dollars in the bank because of the mismanagement that they've experienced in that state. So I think it's really important to reflect on how fortunate we are in this state. Something that is threatening that is the rise of socialism. In Congress, I am seeing on a firsthand basis the new Socialist Party. And that new Socialist Party believes in believes in getting rid of combustion engines. It believes in government takeover of healthcare. It believes in getting rid of borders. It means getting rid of the police. They have a completely different vision for America. You heard one of these socialist Democrats saying, I want to disassemble the entire system of government that we have in this country that has been so successful. And we know that success because we live in it right here in Collin County, and we're so blessed to have that success. And so we're going to have to defend our system of government from these people that want to destroy it. And that means going in and working hard this election. America is going to make a very stark choice. We have traditionally seen conservatives versus liberals here in our country. And you've now watched conservatives versus liberals versus socialists. And the socialists are taking out the liberals. And I've seen that. I've seen members of Congress who are old line, hardcore liberals, who have, perfect, pro-choice voting records and are very, very liberal on any measure, but they're not socialists. And so they're being replaced by these young upstart socialists that are coming to Congress. Mark my words, there will be more socialists in Congress next year than there are in Congress today. And right now we've got to fight here in Collin County to make sure that the next generation of leaders are Republicans in Collin County. And that means we've got to win this election and win it big. A big change that's happened is we do not have straight ticket voting anymore. So it's more important than ever that volunteers go out and educate regular voters. Hey guys, it's important to vote Republican all the way down, because the judge, that might be a judge you sit in front of. That DA, he might be the one that's prosecuting someone that committed a crime against you. That sheriff, maybe running that sheriff's department, and we need people to run that right. So understand that there's a lot of elections that are taking place up and down the ballot from the White House to the courthouse. And it's important that we have great volunteers like every single one of you at Heritage. You guys are a great club. I've just enjoyed for years the opportunity to go, to be with you, to meet with you. I've enjoyed our fellowship and our friendship. And I am very grateful that there are people like you, because with your patriotism, with your commitment, with your effort, we are going to put together, bar none, the best ground game that Collin County has ever seen. And look, last time it was the best we'd ever seen, but we've got to do even better. We've got to really bring our A game, because what is at stake is the future of Collin County and the future of our country. And if we're successful and we can hold the line here in Collin County, then, Van Taylor's going to go back to Congress. We're going to control the Texas House. John Cornyn will go back to the U.S. Senate. President Trump can be reelected. So there's a lot on the line right here in Collin County. And I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. And I hope whatever you're thinking about doing in terms of volunteering, in terms of phone banking, in terms of reaching out to friends and family and encouraging them to vote Republican and voting all the way down from the White House to the courthouse to voting Republican, I hope that you're going to think about increasing that, because there's so much at stake in this election. This is a very, very impactful election. There is a really tremendous amount that's on the line. Will socialism continue to rise in this country? And I, for one, think we've built a great nation. I think it's premised on freedom, on individual responsibility. It's one that's worth fighting for and defending. I fought for it in Iraq. I'm fighting for it in Washington, but I can't do that without you. And so I'm grateful to each and every one of you for what you're doing, and just want to say thank you for being part of this great Republican club. I'm deeply honored to get a chance to talk to you, and thank you for listening to me. Good night and God bless.
Our next speaker is not a candidate. He is working with law enforcement. And the issue that he's going to talk to you about is policing, law and order. We've chosen this as a topic because it will factor into the elections this year. You cannot turn the TV on without hearing about various eruptions concerning police work and defunding police and all these in many of the cities and states. So it has become a very big topic for discussion, and it certainly will be a very important topic during the election process in November. But a little bit about Fredrick Frazier. Fredrick Frazier is a resident of McKinney. He and his wife and family moved to McKinney from Plano in 2007. Fredrick Frazier, his background is as a detective, task force officer. He has been with the Dallas Police Department for over 22 years. And he has been with the Marshals Service for over 15 years. He also is a member of the North Texas Fugitive Task Force and the first vice president of the Dallas Police Association. He will be explaining to you a lot about what is going on with the policing and this eruption causing so many problems with the police departments and law and order. And also, I will tell you that he participates in talks with the current White House administration in Washington. One time when I got in touch with him, he was crossing the White House lawn, which tells me that he also has a prominent place in developing policy, helping the current administration. Welcome, Fredrick Frazier.
All right, my name is Fredrick Frazier. I'm one of your, if any of you live in McKinney, I'm one of your city councilmen. There's 7 of us. I'm at large, so I have the whole city. Also a police officer, been one for coming on my 25th year. Work in Dallas, also work at the U.S. Marshal's Office doing fugitive investigations. I want to thank everybody for allowing me the time to come on here and kind of give you some of the what's going on in politics and what's going on in the police world and what's just going on with the America that I love and I don't see it going the same way that it should be going. And so these are my opinions, and I think some of you will agree with them. I run on a Republican ticket, and I think that that's where our country should be a little stronger. We need more Republicans that are standing up for our rights, all of our rights. And so I'm gonna have my wife. She's gonna read off the first question that was sent to me, and I'm gonna answer it the best way I can. And don't be offended if I'm a little passionate about this, because this is who I am. And I put a lot of people in jail over the years. I've seen a lot of folks that need to be in jail, and it's a sad state that we're in America. So go ahead, Trace.
Okay, could you explain the current policing issue, which has recently exploded in the U.S.?
Okay, so we saw what happened in Minneapolis with George Floyd. No one in policing, no one in America wanted to ever see something like that. That's not a situation where an officer did the right thing. And I'll just explain that from the beginning to his death. So when Mr. Floyd didn't comply and they restrained him, they got him under control. That control piece, when they had him under control, is when it should have ended. He should have been placed up, put in a squad car, and zipped to jail. That's how you're supposed to do it. It didn't happen. You've got 8 minutes and 49 seconds of film there watching him die. Yes, he had health issues. Yes, he had an arrest record. Yes, he resisted. All those things did happen. But it's still, the officer should have got him up, put him in a squad car, or sought medical attention and sent him off. It didn't happen. So that turned into civil unrest in our country. You had individuals waiting on something like that. And let's not forget, this is an election year. So it's an easy point for them to take that piece and go right at it. We saw the exact same thing happen in 2016, another election year, and we watched our streets fill with folks, paid activists that come out of the woodwork, and this is a money-making deal for them. And don't forget that. There you have a lot of people marching in the street because, you know, they want justice, no peace. But then you have other folks there that are paid to do it. And then they disrupt what's going on. They break into the businesses. They burn down squad cars. They do things that are not supposed to happen for a peaceful protest. None of these protests have been completely peaceful without somebody agitating it to get the fire of the others to do some harm. So what do we do to fix that? Well, I sit on President Trump's Commission for Law Enforcement Reform, which is his commission for criminal justice and law enforcement. So we're trying to revamp something that hasn't been done in 65 years. Why? Because nobody else did it. And President Trump saw that we do have an issue that we have to probably nationalize police training across the country. This is something many of us, like myself, who do police legislative work and have for over a decade, we've been asking for this, but it just falls on deaf ears. We write bills every session that get passed that are great bills, from your body camera bill. That's one of the proudest bills I'm as a part of, from our vest bill to our tuition reimbursement bill to advocating for making sure that when somebody is arrested and there's some kind of force that was used, that we have to put that in a system that you can track it. That was never being tracked before, and Texas was one of the first states to do that. I was part of that bill as well. I'll even give you an example, the Sandra Bland bill. Everyone sees that, you know, as like, wow, well, she kind of put herself in that position. She did, but she died in that jail. She had a mental issue. And that was the one thing that wasn't being tracked. But, you know, she called, no one came to get her. And so you go back and forth with, why was that so significant? Well, there's a significant piece in that bill that I wanted in that bill. And that is that what happens when somebody gets pulled over by a police officer, the driver education piece. So every person in the state of Texas that gets their driver's license now, it doesn't matter if you're 50 or you're 15. When you go to get your driver's license, you're going to have to take that part of the class of what happens when you get pulled over by a police officer. I know that sounds simple to most of us because our parents taught us that, or our grandparents taught us that, or our brothers and sisters taught us that. Some of these people don't have anybody that's taught them anything. And so when they have to get their driver education, and that piece is in there, it goes through it's in the test of what happens when you get pulled over by a police officer. 10 to 2, pull over to the right, roll your window down, make sure that you have your information ready. All these things seem simple to most of us. In some places, it's not that simple. They just don't understand. So this piece is in there. That's a part of us as police officers, us doing legislation and police work to get it to these folks, to help them out, to make sure it's helping everybody out. I'm going to trace with a second question.
So you touched on this, but explain how it will become a campaign issue.
Oh, on the policing, it'll be a huge campaign issue. So the reason why this will be a campaign issue, because you're going to see defunding the police departments. Okay, so who uses the police departments the most, and who's asking for the defunding the most? The areas that have most crime. Those areas that have most crime are the ones yelling the loudest to defund the police officers. But it's not actually them. You have to look further than that. You have to look for these paid activists, these individuals that strike that chord. And so they get part of the society where they are at to demand something. But then the other side, the law-abiding citizens that are in those communities go, well, what happens when we don't have the police officers here? We're already short in most cities and states in America. What happens to me when I need to call the police because somebody's breaking into my house, or I've got this guy over here and he's beating me up, or I'm being robbed over here at the 7-Eleven, and where's the police officers going to be? So why is that a campaign issue? You're going to see the left, they're going to jump all over it. Look how much money we put into police departments across the country. They don't. If you look at it, the police services are eaten up by everything in the you can imagine, from the mental ill to the car break-ins, to the murders. I'll go through that real quick. So in Dallas in June, we had 27 murders. Nobody ever said a word about it. They didn't even care. In July, the first 11 days, we had 13 murders. No one's ever said a word about that. No one ever cares. But the police do. The police have to solve those murders. Those family members of those dead people, they care. They want justice. They want somebody to go get those folks and arrest them. We care. Now, the other side is going to say, well, we need to defund you. How are we going to defund us when we're trying to get these people arrested, incarcerated, and prosecuted? That's it. All starts from here and goes all the way down to the police officer, from the legislators that are making the laws, to the prosecutors, to the DAs, to the police officers, to the jails. All of those are one mechanism. So if you ask to defund us, you have to defund it from the top down, all the way to the judges. And so how are you going to do that? When you have as much crime as we have, 1.7 million contacts were in Dallas last year with police officers. We had like 9 shootings. We had in McKinney, I'll give you another statistic. So we had 77 reasons for contacts. It means police officer in 2019 actually physically touched a person, spoke to a person 77,000 times, 0 shootings. So do we have a problem in policing? We have some problems. We have a training issue. We have some issues that we need to address, but we don't have a problem. If you look at the numbers, the statistics don't match up. All right, next question, Trace.
Clarify what all the anti-police uprisings mean and to where they're leading us.
Yeah, I think we're leading into an election here. And so, and the question was, like, what all these uprisings, or what are they leading to? Well, they're leading to trying to get our president unelected. They're leading to try to get our governor unelected. They're leading into politics. When November comes and goes and this election's over, so will all this. You'll probably see a lot of those folks deflated, because when President Trump wins, you're going to have the guy that's in power for the next 4 years again, and he's going to be pro-police and pro-reform in the right way. The way that we can all finish our jobs, the way we can protect ourselves, the way we can go home to our families at night. And that's the person we need in office. That's the person we need to lead us forward. I think Texas is one of the best states in the country for several different reasons. You have leadership like Greg Abbott. You have leadership like Dan Patrick, who completely stand behind those police officers. We still have the Senate. Hopefully we'll still have the House in November. And if we can continue to keep those two things going with the leadership there, this state will continue to be the best state in the nation. Any other questions?
The only other thing, do you want to further identify who is really behind the rioting?
Well, if the question was who's behind the rioting, and I think I've explained it several different times. You have paid activists, and that's where you've got to dig deep, and you've got to pull up who is over these groups that are protesting. And they don't like to really tell you who. They'll use the blanket Black Lives Matter. They have another name, whether it's Next Generation Network or Mothers Against Police Brutality. Every time you see one of those, you need to Google who is actually the person in charge. And when you find out the Dominique Alexanders of the world, or the Shanita Washington, when you find those folks, and then you go back and you find, do they actually have a job? They don't, but they do. They have a job that is made on Facebook, a job that's made on GoFundMe's, a job that's made on George Soros. You've got folks that fund these organizations that put thousands and thousands of dollars in them at this particular time. And these folks are living lavishly. When an officer gets up and puts his boots on in the morning to go to work, these folks are sitting there playing on Facebook, playing on Twitter, playing on social media, getting all these kids in these suburbs, whether it's from Plano, Frisco to Allen or McKinney, to come down there and march for them, because they need those white faces in the crowd. And when they have those, it makes everyone say, well, there must be something wrong. But all those folks are watching these videos, and they're falling for the bait. And these folks are sitting there counting their money at the end of the day, and they're going to continue to do that until somebody shuts it down. I've asked for our AG to look into this. I've asked for our national AG to look into this, because that funding that's coming from these particular sites has to be in somehow illegal, and it's not used in a particular way, especially when it comes to campaigns. So hope I got everything there, Bob. I've tried to get you as much as possible in the shortest amount of time, and I think if we're good. Hang on one second. My wife's got another suggestion.
So what if someone wants more information? Should they contact you? Or
yeah,
what?
That's a good. If anybody wants more information or any way to contact me, you can go on my Facebook page, my political Facebook page, Frazier for McKinney. Also, and I'll give you guys my cell. This is the easiest way, because I'm Bob's and Ted and I've been talking, and Joan, and I'm a good texter. I'm a very good texter. So my number is 214-549-4918. My personal email is Frazier, Frazier 7324 @tx.rr.com. Like I said, I'm a better texter than I am with anything. I'm all over the place. Most of the time I'm working on these cases. Right before I got down here to South Padre, I was working on a murder and got him in Louisiana. And it's funny how these things happen, but that's just who and how our life is right now. And I'm blessed to have a family that supports me on both ends. And we're all blessed in our own ways, but that's mine.
I would like to thank our guests for their part in our program tonight. And I'd also like to thank all of you for watching and looking in. And we hope one day soon to be able to see you live. But until then, we will bring you as many programs pertaining to our candidates and encouraging your vote so that we can keep this state bright red. Thank you again. Goodbye.
Thank you, Joan. In closing, on behalf of the Republican Club at Heritage Ranch, I would like to thank our speakers today and again request that you all stay tuned to your emails and our website for the latest developments of your club. Thank you for all of your attention. Have a good evening.